My story starts in March of 2021 when I was experiencing syncope, which is fainting and inability to stand for any long periods of time. My blood pressure would drop to what they call 50 over dead, which means it would get very, very low. And then I had extreme pain in one of my legs and in my shoulder. And so I went to a local facility near me and was in the hospital for about 5 days in the ICU. And they really couldn't figure out what was going on with me. I did not get a good diagnosis from them, but they wanted me in a skilled nursing facility. So really with no plan, I was transferred to a skilled nursing facility. Well, as it turned out, I had necrotizing fasciitis. And if you don't know what necrotizing fasciitis is, it is flesh-eating bacteria. It's a very aggressive infection that you can get, and time was of the essence. So I had 2 emergency surgeries on a Sunday night, and then on a Monday night, they amputated about 25% of my left hip and my left leg, just because the disease had spread and such and was eating up my flesh in my hip, and it was all the way down to the bone. Thanks to my wife, who was my biggest advocate and actually found MountainView for us rather than a skilled nursing facility. From the very first moment that I got here, it was an absolute joy and pleasure. You have to understand that when I left the hospital, I was probably at the lowest point in my life. My wife had been told that I'd never walk again and I was going to be bound to a wheelchair, and that there was no way they weren't able to save enough of my leg in order for me to be able to stand. The CNA who was taking care of me just looked at me and she said, "You look like you could use a popsicle." And it was amazing. I mean, that was the best tasting popsicle you could ever have. But just that somebody took the time, sorry, I'm getting emotional, to notice me as a human being. Ron, who was my main physical therapist for the entire time that I was there, and then Tina, who was my main occupational therapist, they're like, no, we got this. The very first day, I stood up, and it was like, it's just amazing. You know, thinking I was going to spend the rest of my life sitting. I stood. Day 2, I walked 120 feet with the aid of a walker, and just absolutely incredible. We started working immediately, and it was painful, and I was in a lot of pain. And so, what I like to say about the team here, and it truly is team medicine all the way, is that nobody got down. No, the positive attitude that we can do this, we got this under control, was always there. You don't realize until you can't use it. When you have a messed up shoulder and a messed up leg, you know, you're missing 50% of your ability to get around, and everything from putting on socks to brushing my teeth to combing my hair to everything was, you got to think about, and there are things that you don't think about. So, you know, the ability to relearn how to do a lot of that stuff, and then also involving Leslie, my wife, in that. The care was just fantastic. I was amazed that it happened in 2 weeks. Whatever they're doing here in their recruiting and their hiring is working because everybody talks about patient-centered care. You know, the patient's number one and all this other stuff, but very few people actually achieve that. And I'd say this place is definitely got that. I continue to get outpatient therapy through the wound center here. People are fantastic, absolutely amazing. There were so many people involved in my care, and I'd give them a great big hug and thank you, because there's just too many people. The care continues, and I continue to get better, and I fully expect by Thanksgiving I'll be totally walking and able to meet that third goal, which is have me back to normal.